Welcome to the Kopite podcast with your hosts Mick Moran and Jay Pearson.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Kopite podcast. I'm Mick and I'm joined as usual once by Jay. But we've got a very special podcast today. We're joined by a former pro who played in his home of Norway, Austria, Germany and of course England with a 5-year spell for Swindon, Middlesborough, Sheffield United and Barnsley. Won 71 caps for Norway, scoring 20 goals. He now works in the media and you can often see him pitch side in the Champions League. It's of course Åge Fjortoft. Welcome Jan, how are you?
Thank you, thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. How's lockdown for you? How's it going?
Well, I mean, a guy who is used to travel all the time. I've been more home in 6 weeks now than I've been for the last 6 years. So still married, but that was the last time I checked, by the way. So I'm not sure, but it's 9:30 in Norway now. So at 9:30, I'm okay.
Yeah, so we obviously touched on just before we started recording what your podcast is, that called Pod Save the Ball. Is that something you've always had an interest in, or has it kind of been a catalyst because of this whole lockdown scenario? Has that been brought on because of that?
I think it's both. I mean, what is interesting now is when I grew up, when I played in England, the journalists, I got a fax after every game. So they said, please give us a call. I mean, so things are changing. I have my first iPhone when I was 27. So things are changing in the world around us. And I always wanted to do a podcast, but it was actually my son who started with his podcast, a podcast called Bro Pod. And then he came home because he's playing in Scotland, and he came home and he said, Dad, we got to do it now. And then I said, yeah, we'll do it if you're my co-host. And I always wanted to do, but basically when I'm off around different pitches in England or at Anfield or in Munich, there's always thing that could be discussed and thing that I people I've talked to, and I will also use my iPhone to small interviews when I meet different people. And the thing is, I'm 53 now, but I get still very excited to be on the great pitches. I think it's great to sit at Anfield in the press room when Sicko, of all people, just walking past us in the cafe there, and people don't notice. And I say, people, it's Sicko going there, and I'm the guy who's running after him and I want to selfie and say hello to him. So hopefully I can get that into Pod Save the Ball.
Yeah, definitely. We've listened to a couple of episodes so far, mate, and it's really good content.
Yeah, thank you very much, and we'll try to do it better when I get on the road. And I think the main thing is to keep it. And I've checked you guys up as well, and I think that it's all about to be authentic. That you're doing the real passion for what you're doing. And when I see you guys sitting there with all the shirts and all the things behind you, I mean, there's no doubt that this is an authentic podcast.
Cheers, Jan. Thanks very much.
I appreciate that, mate. It's difficult, mate, because obviously I'm in the studio and Mick's obviously at home, and it's such a shame because I've sort of changed the camera a little bit, because we used to have the camera sort of towards this side of the room, and both of us are in the frame, and I just look at Mick's chair next to him and it's just empty and it's just dead lonely, and I just need to get back in here.
And the problem is, of course, doing different things now with different TV channels, and you always be on Zoom or you're on Skype or whatever. And this problem is a double chin, so everybody's like sitting like this. So we'll try to do it like this. So hopefully the audio could be okay.
Don't worry about that. You're absolutely okay. I'm just
good.
Your hair, Jan. Look at those locks off your head.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I still got the desperate things from the 80s when I have in Norway we call it the ice hockey cut, because all ice hockey players from East Europe used to have that cut. So I trained this morning, so I'm ready to go.
In fact, just touching on the ice hockey things, do you still watch a lot of ice hockey? Or is football just taking over your life?
Well, I'm a sport maniac. I mean, what I did after my career, I went to Austria when I was 22, which was quite young to go abroad, and what I learned in Austria was this thing between sport, culture, commercial, politics, and I knew that when I finished my football career, I would work in those areas. So what I do in Norway now, I got a communication company that works around mostly Norway, but also different in Europe. But so 1/5 of it is football, and people ask me, "Yeah, would you like to do more football?" And basically, I take a lot of things that I've learned from football into my commercial things, because that building into that team feeling, that respect for each other, although you have different maybe levels, skills, nationality, and so on. So I love my sport. In Norway, let's say our cricket, you have your cricket. Our cricket is cross country, which normally when we have that, we have the 8 first positions are Norwegians, but we still love it. And ice hockey, I watch a bit. We have the Swedes and the Finns. They have a lot of in the National Hockey League, of course, but we got one. And I won't say he's a mate, but he's a friend of mine, a guy called Mats Zuccarello, a friend in terms that I know him so good enough to visit him and watch games. And he played for New York Rangers for 8-9 years, and that was a great experience to see him play there. So I love my sport, being Norwegian sport or sports abroad.
Yeah, fair play. I love my ice hockey. I'm disappointed when the season finished, but obviously it's finished for good reasons, obviously. But yeah, I can't wait to watch the NHL again, mate. So it's such a good sport. I mean, I could talk about that all day, but we're not talking about that today. So sorry.
No, exactly.
Anyway, Jan, we like I touched on that at the start of the podcast. You spent a good portion of your life and your career in some of the biggest leagues in the world. What was it for you that drew you to the media side of football rather than like coaching or management? I know you do other stuff in football, not just the media, but what was it that drew you more to the media side rather than coaching?
Well, I think that a lot of footballers will go into coaching because that is a skill, and there are different footballers who will sit in the dressing room all their life and they won't pick up one thing, and then there are others that are destined to be coaches, and then you have someone middle in between, because I play with some of the Premier League Norwegians in the national team, and you just knew that they're going to be coaches, and then there are others you thought, wow, will they be coaches as well? But I've been a sport director for Lillestrøm in Norway, and that was just and for the national team. But that was just because those were the teams in Norway I loved most. So I would like to be a part of it again and kind of remember the times I had. I'm not the guy who will not be sleeping in the middle of the night because I got a new trick for a throw-in and how to go forward. I'm more that the guy who like to see sport in whole. What does it mean now with all the Germans coming to English football or the young Englishmen going to Germany? What's the consequences of that? What's the consequence of having FIFA, UEFA so far away from the football fans? What does it mean to have foreign owners in England, foreign coaches, foreign players, and so on? What does that do to the fans? I was always more interested in that term to it. And also, if you spent your whole life in a dressing room, and I only speak for myself because there's a lot of people who love to be there till they die, more or less. But I was enough. I can still do my jokes. I can still do my banters in the other areas. It was great. I worked for 3-4 years ago. I worked as a manager or a sport director for the Norwegian national team. But it was great to be in the dressing room again. But after 2 years, I kind of, well, Jan, you have done this for all your life. And I would like to do other areas of the game.
Yeah, fair play.
Of course. And obviously, like you're doing now, you're doing like pitch side reporting for the Champions League, and we've all seen some of your great interviews over the years, especially with the likes of Jürgen Klopp, of course. And to me, your style of questioning is quite unique, because I feel like in England we're a bit neglected in terms of pundits and interviews. Obviously, we've got some of the classics like John Motson and Guy Lineker and people like that. But in terms of like pundits, I think we're lacking quite a bit. So when we see foreign channels and we can see people like yourself interviewing managers where the style's quite unique and it's interesting, the questions that get asked are quite insightful and get a nice response. Is that something you had to work on in terms of that, or did that just come naturally to you?
Well, thanks for the nice words. What I did after my football career, first I started in a kind of BBC of Norway, and I wasn't a normal pundit, but I also felt that it was very important for me to have the credibility beyond being a former footballer. So I did my coaching stuff just to have that credibility kind of thing. And then, then I started off to be a host. I was a host for Champions League for 8 seasons. But then when I went pitch side, I felt that, well, you have to build up a reputation there as well. There's a lot of footballers, former footballers, who go from being a footballer to a pundit, and I think that they forgot why they were so good as footballers. It was because they trained a lot. And I think that, first of all, the pundits need to train. The pundits need to be sure about who they are. It's not just turning up there. And you can see pundits who are prepared. So I think whatever style you choose, you have to be prepared. You have to understand the game. In terms of when I do the managers and the players, I think my strength is that I'm wondering things and I dare to ask them, because there's a lot of interviews, and I've been on both sides of the camera, and I can see someone just asking a question to look good for other of the colleagues, but I would like to take fans, try to think of, if I do Jürgen Klopp, I would think, well, he first of all is a very bad example, because you could ask Jürgen Klopp about anything, and sometimes he will give you a fantastic lesson. And Jürgen is different, but I think that you would like to be beyond them. I remember I asked Mats Hummels, defender now for Dortmund, and he went to Bayern Munich, the German defender. I asked him once, well, Mats, you made a big mistake in the first half, and you played Real Madrid. When you come into the dressing room there, and you look around in the dressing room, try to describe to us your feelings. And I think that, and he was nearly crying, and I was thinking, wow, maybe I nearly went too far. But I think that the main thing is that if you're going to ask a question, who cares how deep the number 6 is in team? You can see that yourself. I mean, in Norway, okay, now we have 5 million virus experts in Norway, but we used to have 5 million football experts, and they will probably be back very soon. But I think that if you can go in there, get people or the fans go into the dressing room and try to relive that moment in the dressing room, or what do you do there? And Jürgen, first of all, Jürgen is quite interesting, because Jürgen is so charismatic that for Jürgen it's different than others, because sometimes I feel with Klopp, you have to try to tell people how good he is to improve football players. And through his charisma and through his show off, or through his outgoing style, sometimes you forget that he's a hell of a great manager. And if you see the Liverpool team with all the players, I mean, you define a coach, how good are you, by seeing how much you improve the players. So you can improve a Messi or even a Ronaldo. Ronaldo is a better example, because he's improved all his career. So I think it's my job is to ask the questions that the fans want to know about. And sometimes that could be a simple question when you see 2 teams go out in the tunnel and they're standing there, and then they're talking to each other, they're hugging each other, they're shaking hands to each other. And what does that mean? Because when you're out there, you just tackle as fun, but for fun, and you tough on each other. But you know, that is also part of football. So I think that's my main job. And then you have exception. You have a Mourinho who will come in, or even a Van Gaal. A Van Gaal is the funniest of him to you, because he's total poco loco. But it still is a very great challenge to interview that guys as well. And then you have Jürgen Klopp that my record is 2.5 minute answer, and so there are different characters.
That's one of the things I've always noticed about Klopp, and what Mick said before about the pundits and stuff we've got. I mean, we've got the likes of Jamie Carragher, Gary Neville, which I think they're so brilliant together, and I agree. New breed of what we've got, and sort of Roy Keane's adding that dynamic as well. But you are right, when Jürgen Klopp gets asked a question, whether it's by BT or Sky or whoever, he answers, and the answer can go on for minutes, and you just like he's just so passionate about every answer he gives. Even if you say, "How are you, Jürgen?" that answer can go on for 5 minutes, and he told you all about his week. And I mean, obviously we can see that you're really, really good friends. I mean, for me personally, the interview you did in Madrid, which has gone viral, where he started singing "Let's Talk About Six, Baby."
And it's, there are always a couple of people who can tell you, yeah, but you didn't win. So now, let's talk about six, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about six.
Baby.
That's a new song.
Jürgen.
Can you just tell us about that moment? Because again, it was TV gold. It was brilliant.
Yeah, it's good. Thing is with Jürgen, I mean, Jürgen used to play in the junior department of Eintracht Frankfurt, not at the same time when I played there, but of course you have that background. But it has to be said that Jürgen Klopp is a very, very special character, and sometimes you say that, well, he's destined to be at Liverpool, but sometimes when you see his background and you see what he did in Mainz, what he did in Dortmund, it's also how clever he is to adjust to different clubs. And I think the great thing about Jürgen is that he so quickly understand the mood of the people where he's at, and what he's done in Liverpool is just amazing. And he's just like, you just feel that there's a match in heaven. But Jürgen, the thing in the Champions League final, what people don't know is that, or maybe don't know, is that in some sports the people are like queuing up and you're just waiting, you know who you get. I have no clue after a Champions League final or a Champions League game who I get. And I am level, I will always fight above my weight, because I'm Viasat or Nent, and Nent will always be behind the big Americans, the big English, the big Germans, and then there are the host channels. So I gotta be there all the time, and I'm a one-man orchestra. So when I compete, and I always joke with BT Sport, they got like an army coming with the best players in the world that can help them out. I got Jamie, which is great to have Jamie on my side, but in the flash zone, I'm all on my own. And after Champions League, is especially very hard, because the losing side, they will be mourning. They will think this is the worst thing that can ever happen to them, losing a Champions League final. And for the winner, of course, they want to share with the fans. They want to sharing among themselves. They want to share with the family, and it takes ages. And I've done many Champions League finals, and 1 year I got one interview. Another Champions League final, I didn't get anyone. Well, I got one. I got one of the Liverpool legend. I got Ian Rush and Ruud Gullit. It was not bad, but they both never played. So I was waiting there, and the representative of UEFA, he's the guy who decides, together with the head of communication of Liverpool, and the player himself, or the coaches. So waiting, you're standing there in the tunnel, and you know there is a party going on outside. You know Liverpool is celebrating because you are watching that on the telly. So then I start going into one of the biggest negotiations I've ever had. And there was an Italian guy from UEFA. I knew him, but still. And all the channels were standing around me, and must be 30 channels. So I knew that it was important. I just wanted one. I wanted two, actually, but number one was Jürgen Klopp, and I wanted Åge, because there was suddenly on Instagram a photo of him walking around in Norway in the summer before the Champions League. I just wanted him because he's been so instrumental for you in the Champions League final. So I said to UEFA, have a look around. How many of these channels have been here since Champions League started? And he looked around and he said, as you're asking me that question, I know the answer must be you, Nent. And I said, yeah, that's right. Point one. Point two, who has been to every Liverpool game this season? Who has been there all the time to every game, whoever they played? And he said again, well, as you asked me the question, it's probably you. And I said, exactly. And what Italians know about loyalty. Loyalty is very important in Italy, same as in Norway. So if I can get Jürgen first, that would be great, because he will be in a good mood and he will be comfortable around me and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, we'll see what we can do. So then Jürgen come with his long, goofy kind of running shoes, come through the tunnel, and you can see that on the official video, because he's hugging me when he comes in. But that is just a hug, oh dear God, how much we miss hugging now these days. But he's coming up in the tunnel, and he hugging me, and I congratulate him to winning. And then they go together, Jürgen Klopp, the head of communication of Liverpool, and then UEFA. And then they said, what we're going to do? And I heard Viasat and then he suddenly came to me. So I had him first, and Jürgen came, and he was in fantastic mood. And he, to be fair to him, he's been celebrating for 30 minutes, and he is in a fantastic mood. And then I asked him one of the question, because Jürgen as well, you need to get into that funky soul move kind of thing that we all love him, and as you Liverpool fans love. And then he starts singing, and if you listen to the tape, I'm singing a bit at the start to get him going. But then I understand, thank God in heaven, that I can't sing, so I just go back a bit. But it's still my lips are singing with him, because the main thing there is to get Jürgen to sing the whole song. And when he's finished, this is a long story that is soon be ended, but when he's finished, he's going away, and he goes to another interviews. So he go to Bein Sport or whatever. And I know, as you know, that this is gold. This is fantastic. So I'm standing there with my handy, and I hope this goes live in Norway, that we are in. But then we were, and I texting my producer back in Norway, because sometimes, or once in my 10 years time, we missed an interview. It just disappeared in the fucking sky, and it was gone. It was gone, and I thought, if this is gone, I will never do this again. And I was waiting. What is you doing? What are you doing? And then the producer said, "Yeah, we'll get it soon, because we have some adverts." And yeah, but this is a great interview. I'll have a look at it. And then I'm waiting and waiting. This is the longest 3-4 minutes in my life. And then I knew when everything, I get like 100 SMS. People were going ballistic, and the epilogue of that story is that when he was finished doing the interview with me, he went to Bein Sport, and I was so excited, and I just make sure that everything was on Norwegian telly. Then I asked my colleague, how was it when he came to you? What do you mean? No, it was quite normal. Normal? He was singing at Norwegian TV, and he said, "You bugger!" And so that was a great experience.
That's fucking brilliant. I love that. I think, is that not just a testament to the friendship that you have with Jürgen? Because obviously, like you said, you've known him for quite a while. So I personally think that Jürgen, when I've seen him interview the same people, you can tell who he likes to talk to, and you're definitely one of those people who he would prefer to talk to. You can see it in his bloody face.
Well, maybe, but I think that the main thing for a manager, and to be fair to Jürgen and some other manager, even Arsene Wenger is another different personality, but they're also very professional. So Jürgen, there is a lot of managers just say F off if you lost the game, but Jürgen will still he will maybe do 5 instead of 8, but I think what everybody need to know, that you don't need to harm them. You're not any harm there. I'm not out to criticize. Basically, for Nent, which we call now, or used to be called Viasat, we are there to kind of describe the feeling after a game. So I want to hear from Jürgen how the game was in his opinion. I can have my opinion of the game, but I shouldn't do that in the interview. I think that should be done in the studio by the pundits. My job is to describe his opinion. I can have my... I had a thing with Guardiola the other way around. I asked him the same question 3 times, and I had a bit problem. This is a year ago, and I asked him, how do you make the players be on so many different League Cup, FA Cup, Champions League, and the league? And he said, sleeping. And I said, yeah, well, except sleeping, why do you do that? And he said, sleeping and drinking water or something. And I kept on going. So afterwards, I had to talk to the head of communication. He said to Guardiola, you asked him the same question. I said, yeah, but he didn't answer, and so on and so on. So I think sometimes you also have to respect the managers. You have to find a balance between being harsh right after a game or try to describe things. And there are pundits who have another job, the interviews have another job. But I think that with Jürgen and some others, they know that I don't want to harm them. And sometimes I get him, and there are also occasions that I don't get him because other channels gonna get him. But dear God, how I miss that to be pitch side now. I mean, I think that is the main thing now. Although, the main thing now is to get the number of people dying is like enormous, and especially in UK, and hopefully you all stay safe. But I think that in the moment we get football going again, and there is a lot of talking about that is all the greedy football clubs and greedy TV channels who wants that to go. Yeah, maybe so, but it's also a sign of the society that we get together again. And I feel sorry that especially for Liverpool now, and also Leeds United. I know that is an enemy of you guys, but Leeds always want to be back in the Premiership. So all these things that not only that we miss sport, but I think that we all miss to be together.
Yeah, and like you said, you're not just, like you said, you sometimes technically you are working on your own on those types of places, but every stadium you go to, you know people there, there's friends there, and you're absolutely right. And let's just we want to get this back on as soon as possible. But obviously, when it is safe to do so, I mean, we're quite biased in the way we want the season to finish. I mean, granted, if we can only play 2 more games when we get the points necessary to have the title officially, then brilliant. But yeah, it's one of those things, right? We'll get it finished, and let's just do it when it's safe.
Yeah, I think that the made. I mean, it is interesting now because as we speak, yesterday the France cancelled their season. Germany are about to start all over again, and maybe the 16th of May. They are very optimistic. They're thinking of 9th of May. We see slowly the English teams are coming back to training. The Spanish league, even the Spanish league, are discussing now to come back. And I think that in the DNA of football, yes, we leave that discussion: is football more important than testing and getting the death rate in the society? Of course not. But now we're discussing football. I think that we need to finish that season, and if that means that we have to go into August, September just to finish that season and just start all over with a new season, so be it, because I think that is the DNA of football. And then the national team is important, but now we just have to wait, because that we can do later. In even Champions League, we can find a way to play that as they do in ice hockey or handball. We can find a way to get the Champions League at the end, but I'm sure that Liverpool will get a title, and I hope Liverpool will get a title when all games are played, to void the season. I think that will. Well, they did that in the Second World War. I mean, we will find a way to do it, but let's just hope that the death rate's going down, because it's we can't play football when people are dying around us in those numbers. And you see in Germany now, they have kind of, knock wood, they've got a good control of the thing, as we have in Norway now, and that's why we're discussing it.
Yeah, and obviously we all want to commence when it's safe to do so. But in terms of Liverpool, when we do start get going and the transfer window does eventually open, there's a certain Timo Werner name that's floating around. Obviously, we're a Liverpool FC fan channel, so we've got to ask you about that one. He's obviously one of the best talents in Germany. We've seen your interview with him when he called Liverpool one of the best teams in the world. He said he was very proud to be linked, which was obviously music to every Liverpool fan's ears, I'm sure. He's reportedly got a 52 million release clause, but how much do you think he's likely to join Liverpool?
Well, quite coincidentally, and I talked about that in the podcast pod Save the Ball, there are the four biggest kind of players on the market now that we know on the market is Kai Havertz of Leverkusen, and it's Sané of Manchester City, and it's Timo Werner of RB Leipzig, and Sancho of Dortmund. And the funny thing is about speculations, and I tried to describe this in a tweet, because I spoke when I was in Dortmund. I spoke to two people who was very into that, been for ages in Dortmund, and one said, just as you know, Jan, Sancho is going to Liverpool. It's 100%, and I talked to the people at Dortmund. He will go to Liverpool, And because of this and that, and Klopp and Watzke, they are good friends, and so on and so on. So then I speak to his colleague to get this confirmed, because I can't do it. And he said, no, he's going to Manchester United, 100%. And I spoke to a guy inside, and that's all about speculation, isn't it? Yeah. The thing is with Timo Werner is not the fact that, well, he's a fantastic, great talent, but it's also when you play for RB Leipzig, and in great respect for RB Leipzig, because they're well, we can discuss Red Bull from here into heaven, but still they are very good organized. What they've achieved in Germany is amazing, and they got great philosophy to develop players. But still, a player who's played for RB Leipzig, you know at one stage he would like to play for the best in Europe, or meaning the best in the world. So could he go to Bayern Munich? First of all German players will always think, this is a bit different than in England. It's no Liverpool players will think, we'll go to Manchester United or opposite over there in a generation, more or less. And Timo Werner, he was told by Bayern Munich that, no, we have a Lewandowski, and we think you are too good to be sitting around on the bench. Then now they have a new coach called Hans Flick. And Hans Flick said, well, it's no problem. I can find a way to get him into the team. He can play left outside, right outside. He can play around Lewandowski. And so Bayern Munich will probably on again to try to get him. But we know that they are very into Leroy Sané. As we're speaking today, just before I got on with you guys, I read from a great source that Hans Flick has talked 30 minutes for Leroy Sané. So I can't see them taking Sané and Werner. I can see they're taking Sané and Havertz, who is a great midfielder, kind of Ballack kind of type of player. The reason I started thinking that would be very interesting with Timo Werner to Liverpool is, of course, the connection Jürgen got to Germany, and secondly, that we should never underestimate the pulling power of a manager. Of my standard, when I remember when Brian Robson called me, he was the manager of Middlesbrough, and I was at Swindon. It was when he came to Rub. I probably said yes. And we remember that with Kenny Dalglish when he was at Blackburn. And suddenly he got Shearer, he got Chris Sutton, he got a lot of players going there. And we say for all of us, money is important, but we also want to have fun. We also want to improve as players and Dortmund and Liverpool and some great clubs, they got the pulling power of their stadium, the atmosphere, the history. But it's also important to have the pulling power of a manager. And for a German player to play for Jürgen Klopp, that is target number one. Timo Werner would love to do that. And then secondly, I think that what Liverpool has been so good at over the years, and I grew up, and I'm born in 67, so when I grew up, and you tend to take the teams, we have the match of the day and English teams. When I started reading tables, it was Leeds United. And I had a lot of people around me who supported Liverpool, of course. And I remember when Liverpool sold Kevin Keegan, that was one of the greatest days in my life, because I thought, oh, they're selling Kevin Keegan, they will start losing games. And then what did I do? They signed a guy called Kenny Dalglish, who was even better for Liverpool. And so if Liverpool, can there be now a situation? Corona has changed a lot. This analysis is based on what we did before Corona. But could there be a stage where the three amigos, the great players you have up front, Mane, Firmino, and Salah, if you win, you won the Champions League, you won the World Cup for clubs, you win in the Premier League. Could there then be the right time? Maybe sell one of them. Maybe another one will think that he will go to another country, experience something else. So who could then be the guy who come in? And that could be Timo Werner. And then we spoke to people in Germany, and they said that Timo Werner would love to play for Jürgen Klopp. Liverpool, we knew that through different angles have checked that out. And then, of course, we had the interview when he kind of said, please come and get me. I would love to play for Liverpool Football Club. And I was amazed because, I had a plan. I had a great plan. I wanted Timo Werner. And Jürgen, I just wanted him for that interview. And the head of communication of RB Leipzig, she let me interview him, because if you interview an English player or a player playing in England, they will watch out what you ask people. So they will kind of pull you in the jacket and everything. But this woman of Leipzig just got me going. So, but all analyzers now, it's so hard to say what will happen in post-Corona. Will the 52 million euro for Timo Werner before the virus sound like a good deal? Very good deal. And now coming out of this, when do we start? What does that do to the funds available? The owners in America, how much are they hurt by the Corona, and so on and so on? Or maybe Leipzig will say we have to sell our best players. I had Mikkelbeck, who is now an agent who played for Middlesbrough and back in the days, and he said that maybe big clubs need to sell players just to get them going.
It's so interesting. Sorry, Mick. There was a in the cup where it had to happen in April, didn't it? Before Corona, there was a deal that for Werner that had to happen in April beforehand, and like you said, it's changed everything now, and it's going to change football forever. That's what I believe. But Mick, go on. Sorry, mate. You.
No, I was just going to ask. Obviously, you touched on there, Jan. If he went to Bayern, where would we fit him? And obviously, then you touched on our amazing front three of Salah, Mane, Firmino. Do you think one of them would have to leave? Would that have to happen, or would Werner come in and try and ply his trade and try and? I don't know how much you know, but would he be happy to work his way into the team eventually? Is that the type of character he is?
I think that is the pitch of Jürgen. How does the things go around? I mean, it's amazing because this has changed so much. I mean, there will be players now that will be very happy what they've got. They've got a job, of course. The big stars like the three you mentioned there will kind of, they will find clubs. But even Barcelona and the Real Madrid's PSG, they have to think of what they're planning. I mean, they're cancelling the whole season in France. That doesn't help for anyone. You just got a feeling, and I'm not saying that because I have no idea, and this is just based on my speculation. But I'm just thinking of Salah. Take Salah. I mean, unbelievable career. Maybe one of the most influential people in the world in terms of his religion, in terms of his position as an Egyptian. A fantastic man for Liverpool. But you just get a feeling that will a man stay there forever? And then on the other hand, now post-Corona, maybe he will. Maybe he will see that, well, he will see what he's got. And my club in Germany is Eintracht Frankfurt. And you see some young players, Jovic, he was a great striker, and he played fantastic last year. And he came to Real Madrid, and he's struggling to go there. And I think that people will see what they've got now. So I think that will be a big change. But I think that when you see coming into a new season, if we start off well, you need competition for your places. I mean, please forgive me to talk about Sir Alex Ferguson on your podcast, but still, what he managed at Manchester United, he said he always kept the competition hard for his places. If there was someone like Jaap Stam or Ruud van Nistelrooy or Roy Keane that kind of went out of order, he just fucked them off, didn't he? And I'm not saying that Liverpool players will do that, because I think the team atmosphere at Liverpool is fantastic, and that is one of the main strengths of Liverpool Football Club. But you need competition for places. Jürgen Werner is a young German. If he got a chance to Liverpool, he should go to Liverpool. I think that to go abroad to play, that broaden your prospect as a human being. And even as a player, and I mean to have Anfield as your home ground, I think that must be what must be the dream of most footballers. So I think Liverpool have got a great chance to get him again. Analyzed based on Corona, before Corona.
Yeah, and obviously one of my questions I was going to ask you was, could Liverpool sign Werner and Sancho? But obviously, with this whole Corona, it's highly very unlikely now.
And have as well.
In terms of Sancho.
But I think there's a big chance that Sancho will go back to England. Sometimes I think that a lot of the speculation in media, and fans should know about that, because a lot of the speculations in media, and sometimes I'm a part of this, I try to base it on sources, but maybe sometimes the sources, like I gave it an example from Dortmund when I have two great sources and they said the different things. But sometimes that Sancho is more likely to go back to England, I think that is, and Sané going to Germany, that makes sense, that they want to go back. Werner need to make the next step. But I can't see, when you have three of the best attackers in the world up front, you won the Champions League and you won the Premiership, that you will, I mean, in an ideal world, you'll try to go for both of them. But I can't see you go for both of them. And Sancho will be unbelievably expensive, and maybe then Dortmund will think that well we'll try to keep in another year, because of that the price will go down now. Having said that, I mean, the thing is with Sancho, and that's why I think that he's so much linked to Manchester United. It doesn't have to be that they are closest to get him, but I think that is an analysis of Manchester United that used to have, they're a global club, but they don't have global players. And a global club like Manchester United need to have some great players. They've had that since the days of the 58 team with Bobby Charlton, George Best, and then over the great generations they've had, the class of 92 and so on and so on and so on. So they need that kind of players. I think that Liverpool will more go after the players that they need. And I think that Jürgen Klopp has spent a lot of this lockdown to analyze his team. What he's hunger for more. He knows that next season will be hard again. It's been hard this season as well, but somehow Liverpool managed to run away with the championship this year, which is unbelievable. So I think that will be based on what kind of player do we need, how long can I keep the three up front, and to be fair to Liverpool, the last year have been very good at okay, we need a big defender. Okay, we get Van Dijk. We need a great goalkeeper, and then we get Alisson. So Liverpool been unbelievable good at kind of analyze what kind of players we need, and then they've got him.
Yeah, I think obviously that's the main thing why Liverpool are doing so well recently. Obviously, since Klopp came in, like you said, he's got this philosophy and ideology of pinpointing who he wants specifically, and then not settling for anybody but that person. So I think that's obviously why we're doing so well. And obviously, we don't want to keep you too long, so we've only got two more questions.
Okay.
Just want to move on a little bit.
I've got a Jürgen Klopp podcast today.
Brilliant.
Just want to move on a little bit to obviously, I touched on at the top of the podcast your Norwegian career, and you got 71 caps, scoring 20 goals. But how much of a force do you feel Norway could be in the future? Obviously, you've got the likes of Haaland and Odegaard and Sander Berg and Christopher Ayer. How much of a force do you think that type of team can be going into future tournaments?
Well, I think the first meeting I had when I was the manager of the national team, I came into them and said, I introduced myself, and I said, when I used to play for this national team, we were second in the FIFA ranking. No pressure, but I said also that the good news for you guys is that you have more talent than we had, because we had a small nation like Norway, like Belgium and Austria, Switzerland. We need generations. I mean, it's important in England as well. You've had some great generations as well, and you have a good generation coming up now. But still, you got more players to pick from. We need to have that generation come through when we were good in the 90s. We had the 69 generation, and we had with Stig Inge Bjørneby, as you know, Leonards and two Liverpool players, and Lars Bohin, and they were the same age, and there were some of us who were couple of years older, and so on. Now we have a good generations, like you said, you mentioned 4 of them there, and what they have in common, Ayer and Berge and Ødegaard and Haaland, is that they got a fantastic attitude. They want to improve. They love their football. The main thing for Norway is that, first of all, we are so vulnerable if one gets injured. they'll be vulnerable. We are vulnerable if they don't play in their team, if they are out match fitness. We don't have the great replacement. And then we are struggling a bit at the back. We don't have too many defenders. And we kind of built our national team by being very good defensively, good at counterattacks, good at dead balls and all that kind of thing. But so I'm slightly optimistic. We should have played now in March, end of March. We should have played the semi-final of the Nation League. That has to be postponed, of course, delayed. We're going to play Bosnia, and then we have to play the winner of Scotland against Israel. So both home games there should be, but didn't happen. Was not to be. So I'm optimistic. I hope that this balance in the team will kind of be a bit better. But we need to be good organized. We need to, and we have a old Swede called Lagerbäck who did that for Sweden. He did that for Iceland. So I think that we can be optimistic about our future. But then again, as a small nation, very, very vulnerable.
I mean, we obviously as Liverpool supporters, I think a lot of Liverpool fans that grew up in the 80s, 90s and saw the early 2000s of Norway, we'd always have a soft spot for Norway because we'd, like I said, we have Bjørn, Leonardsen and obviously John Arne Riise as well. And I personally would like to see Norway back at big time, especially with the likes of Haaland. He's a player that needs to be performing on those world stages. But yeah, I really hope that happens. So go on, Mick, hit Jan with the final question. Might be a tough one.
Yeah, so Jan, I usually prompt our guests before we start. If you could pick an ultimate five-a-side team with players that you played with.
Oh, that's a good one. And it need to be one goalkeeper.
It's up to you.
Yeah, it's up to you. You can go. You can have 5 strikers if you want, including yourself.
Yeah. So I play with, not against. With.
No. With. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then we have to do it. The candidates. I started off in Rapid Vienna. There was a midfielder called Andreas Herzog, who played for Werder Bremen and Bayern Munich. He will be a candidate. At Swindon, I had. Well, I'm not sure that Nicky Summerby would be the best five-a-side player, but he was a fantastic crosser of the ball. So he needs to be a candidate. Then I went to Middlesbrough, and that was the best player I've ever played with. That was Juninho, so I have to put Juninho in there. And just because I need some flair around my team, I need to have Vanelli in there, as he scored 3 goals against Liverpool in his first game in Middlesbrough, so I need him. And then I went to Sheffield United. Yeah, I got some good players there as well, with Brian Dean and the likes of different things. So I think I will go. I will go Andreas Herzog. 100 caps for Austria. Played in Werder Bremen and Bayern Munich. Did ever so well. Juninho, Ravanelli, myself, of course, because I just stand up there and step them in. And I will take one from the Norwegian national team, and I could put the goalkeeper in goal. Could be Erik Thorstvedt, who was at Tottenham, but I have to take our captain, Rune Bratz. That he was a fantastic player of a generation, one of the best centre halves of his generation. Although he just played for Werder, not just because he won the European Cup, but he wasn't that famous around Europe because Werder Bremen was not the biggest name. So I have to play Rune Bratz in there. I've probably forgot someone, but I think that would be my five-a-side team.
Perfect. Well, I think with the interviews that we've done over the last couple of weeks, there's been some strong five-a-sides, but I'm telling you now, with the likes of Ravanelli and Juninho in there and yourself, it's a very strong five-a-side. Yeah, I just want to say thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate the time as well, and we would absolutely be honoured if you'd come back on.
Yeah, pleasure.
It'd be wonderful if you could. So yeah.
Thanks for having me on, and all the best. And hopefully you'll find a way to both end the season as winning the title, But I'm more wondering how you're going to celebrate that with that space and lockdown. So you have to put like 100 or 1 million Liverpool fans on Zoom would be quite interesting.
I'm sure we'll find a way, mate. We'll find a way. If not, we'll have a big belated party. Make sure you get yourself over to Liverpool when that happens.
I will. Thank you, boys. Take care.
Cheers, Jan. Thank
Cheers,
you.
bye. Bye-bye.
See you later.
Bye. See you later.